The 16-bit era was filled to the brim with action platformers. They started pretty much from the onset of that generation and were prevalent right up to the very end. Sega itself was responsible for quite a few, some of which are often considered the very best games on the Genesis. Third parties made a solid run within the genre as well. It isn't hard at all to find action platformers that not only look incredible, but have decent gameplay to boot. With these types of games commanding so much space, game companies began experimenting with some wild ideas. Many of you have probably played games like Earthworm Jim, which had a far-out art style, unique stage design, eclectic characters, and a truckload of humor to tie it all together. Around that same time in November of 1994, Interplay brought its own unique brand of humor to the table, thanks to a rather disgusting little gem called Boogerman, a pick-and-flick adventure. And believe it or not, this is one of the few games on the Sega Genesis I've never really played before. The story here is one of absolute absurdity, right down to every name and the situation on a whole. Professor Stinkbomb has invented a machine called the Zap-O-Matic to solve the world's pollution problems. It opens up a portal to Dimension Excrement, a place of profound nastiness, where we can dump anything we want. While investigating the machine in disguise, the billionaire Snotty Ragsdale sneezes, causing the machine to open a portal. Something comes through and steals the Zap-O-Matic's power source, the incredibly rare Snotrium 357. Snotty Ragsdale then pulls a Clark Kent and transforms into the powerful hero, Boogerman, to recover the Snotrium and save the day. From here you have the standard controls you know well for this type of game. Boogerman moves about his environment left and right with the ability to jump on platforms or on top of enemies to destroy them. Boogerman also has a set of powers straight from the minds of prepubescent children. He can sling boogers, shoot burps and farts from various orifices, and even has the power of limited flight thanks to your chili pepper infused ass jet. These powers are governed by meters in the top left and right of the screen. The first is for your boogers, classfully displayed as snot hanging from a nose. Your gas meter is displayed as what appears to be a burp. You'll need to collect mucus and cans of beans to refill these meters. Both your mucus and gas attacks can be charged for added attack power. Your super fart needs to be done while ducking. The bottom left of the screen are your lives and the bottom right are your plungers, which are used to build ladders to extra lives in between the stages. You'll also want to pay attention to Boogerman's cape. When you start out, it's red, indicating you are at full power. Take a hit and the cape turns yellow, indicating you are about to lose a life. Collecting a red cape icon will overcharge the cape and make it flash, meaning you can take 3 hits before you succumb to damage and lose a turn. Other items you can collect include the milk bottle, which upgrades your boogers to the more powerful loogies, chili peppers, which upgrade your gas attacks and allow you to fly, and the previously mentioned plungers, which you need 30 of to collect that extra life. Other items of interest are trash piles you can dig through for hidden objects, toilets which take Boogerman to underground sewers, and outhouses which act as your checkpoints. The levels you play in are aptly named in the most descriptive way: Flatulent Swamps, The Pits, Boogerville, Mucus Mountains, Nasal Caverns, and finally the Pus Palace, where you face the final boss, Boogermeister. If all of that sounds like I just made it all up for shits and giggles or for a late April Fool's joke, well, I didn't. Boogerman is real, and also on the Super Nintendo. Boogerman comes on 24 megabits of ROM, and you see it with every single frame of animation. This one has some of the smoothest movements you will ever see on a 16-bit console. It's Disney level smooth, and I honestly was impressed with it pretty much the entire adventure. It didn't matter if Boogerman was pulling off his ludicrous attacks, climbing out of a toilet, or swinging across ropes. This dude has animation at a level that easily puts most 16-bit games to shame. The enemies are done really well themselves. You get all kinds of goblins, trolls, ogres, and even fart ghosts. All of them animated well above what you typically saw of the era. As nice as the animation is, it comes at the cost of some other areas that are not nearly as well done. Most of your backgrounds are quite plain, if not outright uninspired. There's very little going on with next to no animation or special effects happening. Parallax is kept to its most basic, never going past a single layer behind the foreground, which is often repeated every single sub-level. This creates a certain lack of variety in the environments that does hurt the overall presentation. Clearly, animation and character variety was the focus here. That's not to say Boogerman is a bad-looking game, because it's not. The color and detail are done well, and the boss encounters are genuinely funny thanks to the outlandish art direction. It does make you wonder why this was never ported to the 32-bit machines, or received a sequel there. These animations, paired with higher detailed backdrops and special effects, could have been a winning combo.
Aha! Yep. Get it! Oh! 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 Get him, Buck! Get him! Oh! Oh! Get him, Buck! Get him! Oh!
Boogerman makes use of the Chrysalis sound driver with music from Matt Furness. It is suitably comical and upbeat most of the time and has incredible stereo separation. I'm not fond of all this stuff, but it has its moments. Boogerman also has a ton of voice samples at work, and much of it doesn't sound bad at all. Let's have a listen to a few examples of the audio presentation to see what you think.
Well, if it isn't Booger Boy himself, I'll finish you off, then your world will be mine. How do I stop you first? No! Get him! Get him!
I mentioned in the opening that I haven't really played this game before, and that's 100% true. I've known about it, of course, maybe fired it up once or twice to mess with the opening stage for a few minutes here and there over the years, but never really seriously gave it a real shot. I attribute that to the timing and theme of the game. When this was released, I was just importing my Sega Saturn, and the last thing I was gonna do was waste my time on farts and boogers when I could be beating down my foes in Virtua Fighter. I was close to 20 years old when this hit the Genesis, and the kiddie humor just didn't do it for me. Sitting down and investing some time into it today really opened my eyes to a number of things. First, it is a much better game than I ever would have believed. It's responsive, challenging, and has fantastic boss encounters. The stages are laid out very similar to something like Earthworm Jim, with lots of wavy platforms, things to grab onto, and big variations in low and high points. That verticality helps these stages feel large and explorable, an important element when you consider each area consists of multiple sub-levels in a boss battle. This isn't a game you'll beat in 30 minutes. But for all its great animation, decent gameplay, and well-designed stages, there is a fatigue that sets in that is hard to shake, particularly if you do not appreciate the humor much. farts, boogers, and burps may have a shelf life that will sink this one for many of you. The game is dumb as hell and your mileage will vary because of that. I was also quite shocked that Interplay did not add a co-op mode to this adventure. It seems the humor of flicking boogers at your friend or dropping gas that would choke them out would have been right in line with this game's theme. The single player only option seems like a real missed opportunity. On the plus side, it does have a password system in place to help you with that difficulty, and the bosses are worth their weight in gold. As you may have guessed, Boogerman was a divisive game at the time of its release. Some magazines absolutely loved it. GameFan lavished it with praise in pretty much every area. GamePro followed a similar path, rating it as high as some of the better games on the platform. It wasn't difficult to find publications that were not won over by the game's humor or gameplay, however. Electronic Gaming Monthly had 2 editors that thought highly of it, and 2 that were much cooler on its appeal. The reviewer at Game Players felt it left a lot to be desired and simply didn't hold up with long-term playability. A number of European and Brazilian magazines outright hated the game, rejecting the appeal of its humor and finding little merit anyplace else. Although I hate to admit it, I found old Boogerman here to be a decent game. It has a surprisingly solid foundation of gameplay, it controls well, the stages are fun to traverse, and your attacks get the job done. Again, if the snot and fart humor isn't an immediate turnoff, I think many of you will actually enjoy this. At least enough to see it to the end to say you took the trip. I never thought in a million years I'd walk away from Boogerman saying that. It just goes to show you, you shouldn't judge a game by its cover, or in this case its humor, no matter how incredibly stupid that may be. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.